Today on Bear TV, we speak with one of the men behind Sync Tournaments. It's a new concept out there where you're not only playing against the people in your own tournament, in your own location, but you're also competing against others playing at the same time in multiple locations. And we'll get all the details about that. And they paired with Bear to kind of create a world that's got some gaming elements to it. So it's pretty cool. All right, let's get to that conversation with Kevin Huff. All right, everybody. The man, one of the men, and one of the faces behind the Sync tournaments, which we're going to talk in depth about, and behind Victory Pickleball Series, Kevin Huff. Welcome to Bear TV.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, Kevin. You've been in pickleball tournaments for a while, and one of the things, this is kind of where I want to start, is my overall impression from experience and interviewing people and attending tournaments is that the tournament experience is very hit and miss. People either have a decent time or a horrific time. There doesn't seem to be a lot of in between. And so I really want to just start with that, because I think as this game grows and the growth rate is, obviously through the roof, there's a lot of people trying to catch up to whatever the learning curve happens to be. And that's also pretty fluid. So talk to me about, a guy who's obviously worked in tournaments, put on tournaments. Where do you think it's at sort of in the early stages of this mass growth with how tournaments are being presented to the consumer?
Yeah, I think we started about 8 years ago with leagues and 7 years ago with tournaments. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands of players come through and play in our leagues and our tournaments. And sort of to your point, I would agree. I'm a tournament player. And so when we ended up deciding to build a company, which was just a little over a year ago, and launch a true tournament series, I built it for players by players, because we had those same experiences. Some places were fantastic, but a lot of them were just kind of hit and miss. And I don't really hold that against necessarily a tournament directors or the facilities. Really is always a combination of things, I find. But you know what, Mike? We're now at a place where we've got so many more, dedicated facilities that there's no excuse for great tournaments. Like we shouldn't be lacking great tournaments anymore. But the challenge is we're still a new industry, right? Sure, we've been around 60 years, but we're still a new industry in terms of really having our frameworks together for running tournaments. And I think a lot of tournament directors are just like, hey, this is a great idea for me to try and make money for my charity. And that's just what 99% of tournaments are, is for charities, right? Which is great. We support that. But that means you end up lacking somebody who has a lot of experience understanding what delivering a true customer experience is for a bunch of players. That's where we separate ourselves. Our goal is absolutely to deliver a new, exciting experience, and then become creative and continue to deliver even newer experiences going into the future, rather than just your same old, same old. Yeah, we want to give everyone an opportunity to explore what pickleball could become.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit it right on the nose there. When you go to a tournament and you have somebody who is a professional at doing this, running it, you can tell instantly. And I don't think there's a lot of that out there at the moment. People are learning, as I mentioned in the beginning, and kind of on the go. So talk to me about that and some of the experiences that you're offering, because you talked about this, that you're offering some things that have never been, put out there before, and you've got some exciting things coming up.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. So if you come to a Victory Pickleball Series tournament, like our Sync tournaments, which I'm going to get right into here, you're going to find that it's very organized. The moment you step in the front doors, in fact, well before that, lots of communication. We get praise all the time for the communication we do. Very specific emails that go out, months in advance, a month in advance, weeks in advance, just telling everyone what's going on, keeping them abreast, where to park, how to park, everything from there to what the check-in procedure will be like, all the way through what to expect if you win, if you've never won before. Sometimes people win and then they just take off because they don't know to hang around for a medal ceremony. Sure. We communicate all that stuff with them. But what we have found is that as pickleball continues to grow, there's a certain number of people who really used to enjoy tournaments that have kind of begun dropping off. I'm playing a lot of the same people is often an excuse, or I've just been in so many tournaments that it doesn't hold the same allure for me anymore. And that's okay because there's a new batch of people continually coming in fresh. But man, I really hate that for some people because I'm a competitive dude, and if you tell me to we're gonna wad up paper and throw it in a trash can, I'll do that all day long because I like to compete. So we've gotten very creative and said, okay, we need a whole new level of competition. Like, what's that look like? And so we created something called Sync, and that's short for synchronize. And Sync is where we take a tournament that's running in, let's say, Denver, and a tournament that's running in Kansas City and St. Louis. We'll stick on I-70 for a little bit, Indianapolis, maybe fourth one. And we take all of those locations, 8, 10, 20 locations, doesn't matter, and we pit those winning teams against each other virtually. So I'll kind of paint a quick picture. Mike, let's say you're
Yeah.
playing in your town, you're playing men's 5050 plus, I'm playing men's 5050 plus in my town, and that's happening in 8 other cities. All right, these events are all the same. Men's 5050 plus. Of course, all the other events are happening too, right? But we're going to look at ours as an example. And at the end of the day, we see that your team and my team are the only undefeated teams. So that means we've gone and we've looked at a tiebreaker among these winning teams across the nation, even though they didn't play each other head to head. And we said,
Right.
let's put them into a tiebreaker. First tiebreaker wins and losses, 8 teams are out, but our 2 teams are still left. Now we're going to
Yeah.
look at head to head. Well, we didn't play head to head, so we're going to go down to point differential. My point differential was, 2.8 per game, and yours was 3.2 per game. So you've got the best point differential. Therefore, you're the overall sync winner. So you've now won not just your local tournament. We've put a medal on you for that, but you've won a larger overall virtual tournament by competing against these other locations. Then, Mike, what we'll do is at the end of the year, we're going to invite you and and my team and the other teams that had that tie
Right.
into a physical tournament where they can actually come back and go head to head and go best of the best. Were you really better than me, Mike, or was it just the players you played against in your city? We'll roll out the red
Wow.
carpet for that one, and we'll do it. We'll do it all up. Um, Along the way, in each of these tournaments, we've actually built a dashboard so I can see after game one, Mike's 1-0, we're 1-0. Jerry's 1-0,
Yeah.
Terry's 1-0. So I'll be able to watch the whole time. Oh crap, Mike's got a bigger point differential than us by point 4. We got to smoke these next guys we play in order for us to have a chance to, to get back up into that first place spot. So there's kind of that live virtual competition going on too, where you can see how others are doing against how you're doing.
Yeah, it's got a very gaming feel to it, like the
It
gaming
does.
industry, and a lot of obviously young folks and older folks that have been playing gaming for a while, probably pretty attracted to that because you can't travel to all these places, and but you still get a chance to compete against them, which is pretty cool.
Exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about obviously VAR. It's VAR TV. We'll talk about the rating system, visual rating system. Talk about the partnership there and why your events were sort of attracted to bringing VAR in and using VAR in your tournaments.
If we want a real best of the best, then we've got to land on the best rating system. And so I've done a ton of research, and there's a lot of opinions out there. And I don't, by the way, care about opinions. I care about real data. And when we look at the real data, it's hard for me to believe that anyone besides VAR can pull off what we want to pull off. And so, obviously, in a best of the best, I don't want sandbaggers. I don't want teams that are cheating along the way or doing their best to do whatever they can to pat themselves on the back, but nobody else will pat them on the back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we've met with Mike and the team at Air. We've worked diligently with them for quite a while now. They actually came out and played in my tournament in February to see what we were really about, so they could get a feeling for us
Wow.
as well. They loved
Great.
it, had a great time. They couldn't believe what we did from a tournament perspective. And so they settled on us as well. They said, we want you to be our tournament company. We want them to be our rating company. And so every single sync tournament is 100% VAR.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a pretty cool thing because I think once people start to go into your world with sync and see all the bells and whistles, and when you combine that with the bells and whistles and all the cool things that VAR has to offer, it seems like if you're into any sort of data and statistics and all that stuff, or gaming and all that stuff, it's got to be an absolute blast
Yeah.
combining these two things.
Yeah. The problem is going to be, Mike, is helping people understand all the things we're going to offer.
Yeah,
And I
true.
know you have enough insight, right? You know what I'm talking about. But
I do.
from video recaps to actually scouting reports and you
Right.
name it, there's going to be so many things that are available or are already available that I
Yeah.
think it's going to take people by surprise what we've been able to put together.
Right.
100%. So let's talk about, before we get you out of here, what's coming up and when the big events are going to start happening with Sync and Bear.
We did our first sync event 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic. It was a beta test, in fairness, so it
Yeah,
wasn't the full meal deal. But we tested the software for running the tournament, which is PB Heart. It was great. We tested the dashboard. That's our proprietary dashboard for running a sync tournament. It worked great. Really cool. There's like multiple views. You can look at it on your phone, right? And you can scroll through and kind of watch yourself and click through to what you want to see. But there's also like a view on a big TV at the actual facilities. So you can kind of, as a group,
wow,
like watch what's going on and talk about it and see where you're at. And man, everyone loved it where we were at. So those things went great. We're tweaking a couple of things that we want to do for the next round. But Labor Day weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to do another or our next first real sync tournament. This will be
nice.
5 or 6 locations. I gotta say this. This is the cool part. We don't need 20 courts anymore. I can run a
Right?
1,000-person tournament with like 6 courts at multiple locations.
Yeah,
So Mike, that opens up all these clubs that couldn't do large tournaments before. That at least they'll be engaged in a large tournament for their part. And so
right.
we have a whole new list of people that we're talking to and excited about working with. And anyway, so the big one's coming up in September, and then we'll probably launch a monster one in December, and we'll look for our first 10 or 12 location tournament.
Wow. Yeah, pretty cool that I never thought about that with you can include all these smaller locations that
Yep.
really sometimes get left out just because they
Yep.
can't host a bigger event and that's pretty neat.
Hey, let me
So
just say this. Even with
yeah, go ahead.
just 2 locations, they can be a part of our sync tournaments. I mean,
Yeah,
not two locations, 2 courts. I apologize.
two
Even with
courts,
two
two
courts,
courts.
they can be a part of our sync
Right,
tournament. Yep.
right. Really, really cool. Okay, last question. Obviously 2026 you're starting to roll and things are starting to go and you're partnering with particular people in the industry. What are you really looking forward over the next year, like a year from now?
We think that in a year from now, well, it'll be a sync invitational where we invite only those number one teams that ended up having to go into some kind of tiebreaker
Right.
to come out for the best of the best. So that'll be our sort of big culmination at the end of the year next year. But along the way, we think we'll end up running 180 to 190, maybe 200 tournaments next year, whereas before we were running 5 or 6 big tournaments every year.
Yeah.
But now that we can run 10, 12, 20 in any given weekend, right, spread out across the U.S. By the way, not only U.S., I'm getting invited by people in Europe, and Honduras is going to be one of our locations
Oh
in the
wow.
tournament in December. So like
Yeah.
it's going to be global. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, once it hits the international scene, holy cow, it'll be like a wildfire. Absolutely. Pretty cool. And exciting stuff, Kevin. I can't wait to see it, participate in it, be part of it, and really looking forward to the event Labor Day weekend. Folks, if you want to get involved, all the links in the description. We got Kevin Huff here from Victory Pickleball Series and PB Time Platform and the Sync Pickleball Tour.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on Vera TV. I appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Kevin Huff. If you haven't got your free Ver account, do so. Links in the description. Get yourself in a sync tournament. It's the future, and it looks pretty cool. Looking forward to those first events coming up Labor Day weekend. All the links for sync and Ver in the description. All right, folks, you know what to do. Hey, let's pickle.